In the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, Amen. We shall get started because he came on time. Welcome everyone. So if people want to come, they can come later. And I've noticed some of you were here in my first session. Who was here in my first session? How many? First time. How many in the first session? Okay. So very good. So you're the one that coming again. The people didn't come first time, didn't come again. It's their loss. But anyway, it's recorded and people can watch it on live stream on YouTube. But the reason why I said that is because I was planning to get people who didn't attend the first time. So some of the stuff I'll say will be repeated, okay? So some of the stuff I'll say today will be repeated what we said last time, because that was aimed at a more wider audience. So if you hear some of the things that we said before, it's still good because we need to hear it again, but I'm just sort of warning you before. I want to start by telling you this. The reason why we wanted to do this as a church is because our role as a priest, my role as a priest, my job description is to take my congregation to heaven. That's my job description, okay? You as a priest, you need to go to heaven and you take all your congregation with you to heaven. And don't let anything get in the way between them and God. And that's why as a father, as a priest, I have a duty to make sure that I take my congregation with me to heaven. And anything that I find in the way that will hinder that as an obstacle, I have to get rid of it. And one of the things I personally find is a big obstacle is technology in this generation. Technology is a big obstacle in the salvation of us as adults and for our children the most. Because this is the only thing they grew up with. They don't know how to balance things. They don't know where to draw the line. And that's why we thought to educate you as a parents so you can be more aware and you can educate your children so you can navigate them through. Because we need to make this from the very clear. Our kids are beautiful. They have beautiful hearts. But I actually feel sorry for them because the generation they're born into is full of that. That's the only thing they know. So for them, even as adults, when we tell our kids, why do you have to do this on the phone? Why you have to always hold the phone in your hand? Why are you spending so much time on social media? For them, they look at us saying, that's how it is, you know? That's how it is. And we say, but in my generation, don't talk about your generation. You're old-fashioned, okay? This is how it is now. So they assume this is normal for everyone to be doing what they're doing now. So we have to correct that mentality. So I believe that social media and phones, especially smartphones, are a big obstacle to our salvation and the salvation of our children. And that's why, when we decided to do this series of talks, that was actually decided well before all the things that happen about, Knox grammar and all these things about social media and all this about phones and effect on phones. And then if you notice, if you watched the news last week, I was about a week ago, this was on the news. And I'll play it, and maybe some of you has already seen it. And see what they talk about phones, okay?
The state government has slammed the opposition over its pledge to limit mobile phone use in public high schools. It says most high schools already have... The state government has slammed the opposition over its pledge to limit mobile phone use in public high schools. It says most high schools already have voluntary restrictions, but Labor wants them made law, claiming phone obsession is harming education.
As yet another video from Knox Grammar emerged. Labor leader Chris Minns pledged to take schools back to the future. Bell to bell, no phones, except for emergencies.
Away from social media devices, away from mobile devices, actually talking and speaking with one another as we used to do.
With plenty of support from parents.
I'd rather they don't have a phone at school.
It causes sleeplessness, anxiety,
questions of self-worth.
But the Education Minister says most schools already have restrictions in place, with a plea for the educators at home.
Parents have a big role to play in terms of the eye that they keep on their kids in terms of what they're doing online.
The Minister says there are digital literacy resources available to teachers as well, but digital wellbeing expert Carla Wilshire says not enough.
If you look at countries in Europe like Finland, they have a comprehensive program around digital literacy.
The Labor policy would only extend its powers to public schools and so wouldn't apply to private institutions, including Knox Grammar. But the Labor leader believes the legislation should encourage those principals to introduce their own set of rules.
I think that private schools would take note of the measures and the effort that the New South Wales state government would make in relation to high schools.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
Chris Minns here, New South Wales Labor leader. I am joined with the group.
So actually that went on for a long time, and they had a conference and everyone talked about in detail the impact of phones on the kids' education. What do you think about that? They're just talking about from the educational point of view, okay? But if you heard the comments, some of them said other things, the impact of phones. Did you pick that up? What did they say? Can you remember? Sleep, the effect on sleep, yep, the effect on sleep. Excellent, what else? Self-worth, which is a big one. They're just words they just said, but they're actually big topics. They're huge topics on their own. So they said, this, the sleeping pattern of the children, the students, the self-worth. What else? Anxiety. It's just 3 words. They said it in 1 second, but they're huge topics. Okay? All this because of they have access to one of these smartphones. And the problem with that is the government even, or the opposition at least at this stage, they recognize that this is a big issue. I think it's a bit late. Okay, it's been an issue for a long time. But they recognize that this is a big issue now, and they want to take a step to ban phones from schools. Why? Because they have to wait until a disaster happens, like in Knox Grammar, and we have to be reactive. But we don't want to be reactive, we want to be proactive. Why wait until a disaster happens, and then I'll take my phone from my kids? Why? Let's be educated first, let's do that so we don't be reactive, but being proactive and understand the implications. As I said, I went through this last time, so the people that were here, I apologize, because you're going to hear it again. But I want to share with you, I want to actually, if you're not disturbed, if you think I'm making a big deal, I want to scare you. I want to disturb you so you can take action, basically. Because I said, if we don't see how big this problem is, we'll never take action. So we need to see how big this problem is. So I've got some statistics for you here, which I went through last time. Okay? So more than 9 out of 10 parents think digital devices negatively distract their own lives, and 83 think their children are also negatively distracted by digital gadgets. Okay? See how it says here that the parents themselves think that their own life is distracted by digital devices. Okay? We need to admit that as adults. If we don't admit that ourselves, we'll never be able to convince our children, because children look up to us. If we deny saying I'm an adult, I can do whatever I want, no way our children will be able to get the message. Okay, so we need to admit that this affects us, and I'll talk about this later. But see how it's negatively distracted. And we know, if you go and think carefully, you will see that a lot of conflict in the home happens around negotiating the use of this. You're spending too much on the phone. You're spending too much on the internet. What are you doing all the time? Your studies. You're not spending enough time on your studies. All these things happen, and all this conflict happens because as parents we try to negotiate the use of this mobile, this digital technology with our children. Talks about education, about sleep. 3 out of 5 children aged 5 to 12 who struggle in school regularly sleep with the digital gadgets. They actually take them to bed with them. They sleep with them. They wake up in the morning and you find the mobile phone next to them. What were they doing all night? We have no idea. We're sleeping and we think everything is fine. But the kids are having their mobile phone with them all night long. What they do with them, we'll find out. Okay? 2 out of 3 Australian teachers observed more children arriving at school tired and often not ready to learn. And this is very common. And I noticed it as a priest as well. You see on Sunday morning, some of the deacons or some of the kids praying liturgy, and they hardly can keep their eyes open. Why is that? It's because they sleep very late. Why? Because they're so busy on the gadgets. They're very busy doing stuff that has no value, if not has negative value to their lives. Even grandparents can see the problem. 4 and 5 grandparents wish their children played sport rather than video games. I'm sure in our generation, we used to play a lot of outside. People used to ride bikes. People used to play with balls on the street. People used to do sports, hobbies. Nowadays, how many of our children actually spend a lot of their time, it should be all of their free time, doing physical activities like that, physical stuff, physical sports, not playing sports and games. It's not the same when you go out and kick a ball in the park, different from when you're playing a soccer game online. That's different. That's not the same, okay? So that's completely different. So even grandparents recognize that, okay? This is one of the, for me personally, this is very scary. More than 4 and 5 children, that means more than 80%, okay? So imagine this. So for every 5 children, more than 4. So say in 10 children, will be about 9 or more than 8. Own at least 3 digital devices at home. Can you just imagine what that means? So most of our children own at least 3 devices. So could be what? Name me 3 digital devices. A phone, iPad, phone, laptop, smart TV. They wouldn't own a TV. They own it. That's theirs. So that's my iPhone. That's my iPad. That's my Chromebooks, Xbox, smartwatch. Okay. So imagine most of our kids have at least owns 3. They say this is mine. Okay. And he says that the ownership starts at as young as 4 years old. 4 years old. Saying this is mine. You think this is exaggerating? Let's find out. Remember the video I showed you last week? Remember the video I showed you last week? It was very disturbing. From 60 Minutes. Remember that one? Okay. Because maybe some people think it's been exaggerated and other kids, they're fine. They're just playing games. No, it actually has turned into an addiction. Okay. This use of digital devices it's not now a means of entertainment, or they're just wasting their time, or they're just just another activity. No, it's becoming so serious. It's becoming an actual addiction, like any other addiction. And this is not my words. This is from 60 Minutes, and I showed you that if you were here last week. I know you'll see it again, but this was very shocking to see that. Let's see what they're saying.
It's a familiar sight in households around the world. Children being entertained and placated by technology. But this is also familiar. Monumental meltdowns when the devices are taken away. They're reactions that are in fact symptoms of one of the major medical challenges of our time. What's being called internet addiction disorder. And it has mental health experts worried about children and their parents' actions.
They give their children a device at maybe 3 or 4, and all of a sudden that's all they want. And they don't want to play with other toys. They don't want to have any interest in other activities. They just want to be in front of their screens.
Okay, so add some more time?
Yeah. Yep, so add an hour.
I'm going to put the password
Brisbane mum Bianca Pevriol knows exactly what the experts are saying. Over the years, she's used the Xbox, smartphones and tablets to give her a few moments of much-needed peace from 2 bright, active boys.
Sometimes you have an important phone call, or you've got a parent-teacher interview or whatever that you just can't be interrupted in, and it's so easy. It's peace in a pocket.
But recently, Bianca started noticing a dramatic change in 9-year-old Owen and 7-year-old Adam's behaviour as they became hooked on their handheld screens and the popular game Minecraft.
They would be playing every single day and they would be late for school and they wouldn't do homework, and they would become sort of aggressive and throw tantrums and that sort of thing if they played for ages and ages.
What were the kids like if you tried to turn off the Xbox or take away the tablet?
Yeah, well, that's tantrum city then.
The bad moods and the tantrums are almost like withdrawal symptoms.
Correct.
Do you agree with that?
I agree, totally, yeah. It is. There is something about it that changes their brain.
And Bianca's right, there is something happening in young addicted brains. In early studies, Chinese researchers compared brain scans of average adolescent internet users to internet-addicted adolescents. In red, you can see the affected areas of the addict's brain, areas responsible for decision-making, emotions, and self-control. Screen addiction distorts the same brain function as alcohol, drugs, and gambling. And it's exactly what was happening inside Tam Neal's brain.
How scary is that? Okay, the people that were here last time may not be scary now, but it should still be scary because it shows that it's a new addiction now, similar to alcohol, drugs, gambling. So how would you feel if your child is addicted to drugs? Is that something you can take easy? Of course not. This is the same thing. And this, as they said in 60 Minutes, they said this is the new thing that's affecting the generation. And you saw the little kids, what were they saying when they were crying? Did you hear? I want my iPad. This is withdrawal symptoms. You know, drug addict, when you take the drugs from them, that's what they do. They go crazy. And even that mother, she said her kids, she noticed aggression. Her kids becoming aggressive. And they play all the time. What happened as a consequence? What did she say? Who's listening? What did she say? Should have showed that video a bit later because some people came, so I want to, maybe I'll show at the end as well. Okay? So what did they say when they're playing this? What happened to them? They showed aggression. What happened? What else? They went late to school, remember? Used to go late to school? Exactly. They neglect homework, neglect school. Why? Because this stuff is not as interesting anymore. I'd rather play games than do this. But you know what? You think this is only for young kids. I knew personally, and that was even many years ago, like not recent, many years ago, that he was actually a uni student. And he used to play a game all night. He misses uni, misses exams, doesn't study. He failed exams. He got kicked out of uni. Can you believe it? He was maybe 19 or 20. He got kicked out of uni because of his addiction to games. People would think, but they're playing games. You know what happens in these games? Does anyone know? How does it work? You know why he's staying up late playing games? Guess why? Guess why? They're not playing games by themselves. They play games with who? With other people, people from overseas. There's a group all over the world, and they play games. And he had to wait for the right time zone to play the games with the other people he doesn't even know. And these people, different time zones, and that was the best time to fit with everyone else. Who cares about his studies? Who cares about his uni? Who cares about his commitments? This comes first. Can you see the addiction? It's an addiction. If it comes first, then it's addiction and has no value. And not just that, when they play games, what do? Excellent. We don't think about that. They're actually chatting. It's like a chat group at the same time. So they're talking to each other. Who they're talking to? Your kids talking to who? Strangers. Do you know who they're talking to? You may not hear them, but they're typing. Okay? They're talking and writing. Who they're talking to? Do you know these people? Would you let your kids talk to strangers from overseas? Do you know who these people are? That's how people come and attack children online. And all the crimes happen online with children. They disguise themselves as friends, as, you know, I'm a 13-year-old boy from America, and that's a full adult trying to what? Do wrong things with kids online. That's how they get them, okay? And we're very naive. We think the kids are playing a game. It's a nice game, just a fighting game or a car game, whatever it is. It's not just about the game. Even some games are really bad themselves, but even if the game is good, what's happening behind the scene is not good. Can you see that? There's many things else happening. It's not just a game. In our days, we used to play a game by ourselves on a small gadget, not connected to any internet, not connected to anything. It's just me and the game. That's it. That's simple. It's not like that anymore. They're playing with the whole world, and they're talking to the whole world, and you don't know who they're talking to. And there's no way you'll be able to find that. It's very hard to control that. Can you see the problem with it? So this is not just affecting younger kids, affecting even adults as well. Like I know adults who are addicted to these games, okay? It's becoming a really, really bad thing. And that game, especially Minecraft, you know, that was many people addicted to it that they're talking about, okay? So you can see this is a major thing. But now, while we're talking about this, because as adults, I scared you about your kids, but I want to scare you about yourselves as well, okay? Because I know that many marriages will break up because of internet addiction, believe it or not, okay? Because now it's changing everyone's lives, young and old, okay? So if we think that this is just related to kids, I just want to add in something extra today for the adults to watch. And as they 60 minutes, as they said, this affected the children and the brain changes and all these different brain, how the brain works, all these changes. This is exactly what happened with this lady. She's married with a child. She's an adult, has a child. Look, listen to her story, okay?
It's like a tunnel vision. I feel like I lose my sense of peripheral vision, my sense of light. The day could change from day to night and I don't notice. I was a mess. I didn't function like a normal human being. I didn't cope with anything.
It could be the bottle or drugs or gambling, but Tam's talking about her addiction to the internet, especially online gaming. How bad is it?
At the worst, I was gaming for 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-stop.
Tam was a prisoner of the online world. Married with a young son, her daily life was completely consumed by surfing the internet and playing games like Tetris and Solitaire. So much so, she chose her computer over her family. When you were at the worst, how did your life collapse around you?
My son was at a friend's house on a play date, and I knew that if I didn't go and collect him and go home and make dinner and just get on with the evening, that was it, it was going to be over. And I thought, I can't handle that, that's too big, I'm going. And I left, and I went internet cafe hopping that night, and I spent the night at an internet cafe. That was the real rock bottom. That was the day that I made the decision that I was going to turn my back on my life and my family and choose gaming. And even though I had hit rock bottom already, and I knew how bad things could get, I still chose gaming.
Tam acknowledges she has internet addiction disorder, and if you're skeptical about the diagnosis, then watch this. Now, you tell me at any stage if you're not comfortable. I'm very much guided by you.
Okay.
To show how she's affected by this addiction and what she does to control it.
Reality becomes like white noise.
Right, so you zone out.
Yeah, I really zone out, and it's like I can't hear anything. And so I feel okay to go into this place today because I'm here with you. You're like my anchor. You're in the real world.
Right. A brave Tam takes us to an arcade full of computer games. Adult versions of what our children encounter on their screens and programmed like poking machines.
Noise and sound and colour, and so it's very hard to explain to people that don't know the physiological response.
Yep.
But I think that it's really important that people can see it because...
But in just a few minutes, she becomes a different person, completely overwhelmed by this environment.
Well, this is what's wrong. This is why that I'm... Can we move down there a little bit?
This way, come on. I can see you're even clutching at your chest, and it's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah.
I find it hard to focus and I find it hard to articulate. No, not there. Yeah, I just want to get out of here now.
Let's do it.
That is like, you know, a gambler being in a room full of poker machines, or an alcoholic being in a bar.
Yeah.
And I can see you were struggling up there.
The message that I'm hearing is, what's my goal now? Where's the next gold coin? Where's the next bit that I need to pick up, or the key, or it puts me right back into a gaming mentality.
Internet addiction really is like any other addiction where you're talking about how do you diagnose it when it becomes problematic, when there's consequences.
He was spending 40, 50,
Dr. Kimberly Young is a psychologist and a professor at St. Bonaventure University in New York. She's a pioneer in the field of technology and internet addiction. I think parents are trying to catch up. We all think we've done the right thing by handing over all this technology, but now we're realizing there's a problem.
Yes, and that's really where the key is that we aren't giving any messages that there's a potential downside.
I love the seaside and I love the snow.
How have we got to this stage that there is an addiction to the internet?
What really happened, I think, to jettison this issue of technology/internet addiction is mobile. And in 2010, the first iPad was introduced, and now everybody has a smartphone. Everybody has some kind of tablet device. And so it really brought home this issue of internet addiction.
So it is an addiction that you can compare to alcohol addiction or gambling.
Yes, I think the diagnosis is fairly similar because addiction is addiction.
Dr. Young has many patients exactly like Tam Neal. She's also used to seeing plenty of teenagers addicted to technology. But almost unbelievably, it's now troubled toddlers and young children who are coming to her clinic.
You know, if say a parent says, okay, you can't be on the internet for all afternoon, a child starts throwing a tantrum, or they become even violent because they're feeling this need to be back online.
Is handing devices like smartphones and tablets to young toddlers a path to addiction?
I think it can become potentially quite dangerous. And now the age group has moved from teenagers to now really young toddlers, and saying even at 3 or 4 or 5 years old, I'm not able to.
3 or 4 or 5 years old. So we can see that clearly. The first part, we talked about the effect on adults. You can see that woman, that was really shocking when I saw that. And why I said that, because it's very important to realize that no one is above this, okay? It's addiction that affects everyone. So we as adults need to think about ourselves and be honest with ourselves and see how much we spend on social media. I know you may say I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm just checking this, I'm checking the news, I'm doing posts. But when we say this, then we're not being good role models, because remember what we showed you last week when we talked about this point as well? I showed you this one. Remember this one? That whatever we do, our kids copy. Okay? And even parents themselves recognize that their own habits will influence those of the children. And that's why when we need to tackle this issue, we need to tackle on our level as parents and on the kids' level as well, because we have to do it together. I cannot tell my kids, you're not allowed to do this, and I'm doing it. I can't tell them, I'm doing it for a good reason. They don't understand that. I need to lead by example. And this is very important, because as we saw that example of the lady getting addicted, and now the psychologist is saying it's becoming now the younger age. Okay? This is something very important. And as we said last week as well, we believe we want to give our children the best of life. And this is actually one of the reasons why the effect of our phones now in this generation is taking a different approach. Can I be honest with you? Okay? One of the reasons actually is our parenting strategies, and that needs another talk by itself. What we're doing with our kids as a parent, how we're raising up our children, our parenting strategies in dealing with this. What I mean by that is now, and I see that very clearly as a priest, in how parents deal with the kids. In my days, when I used to do something wrong, my parents will tell me off. My parents would punish me. My parents, if someone come and complain to my parents about me, they will come and say, what have you done wrong? Why have you done this? Why have you done that? If I've done something wrong, I'll be punished for it. There was no issues. But nowadays what's happening, the parenting strategy is different. As a parent, my kids are so special. My kids, I treat them like princes and prince, okay? If anyone comes to complain to me about my kids, no way I'm going to tolerate this. When my child is doing something wrong and someone else comes saying, your child doing something wrong, I'll have a fight with the other adult in front of my child. What am I doing here? I'm reinforcing the bad behavior. I'm telling my kid, you're okay, keep doing what you're doing wrong. These people are wrong. There's no much discipline nowadays. There's no much proper raising. What are we doing? We are making our kids feel they're so special. Whatever they want, they'll get. Why? You're not less than anyone else. I feel this is, forgive me if I'm offending anyone, if anyone's going to be upset from this, but I have to say, as I said, my role as a priest is to go to heaven and take everyone with me. If I see anything hindering the way, I have to say it. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I don't like doing that. So please forgive me if I sound a bit tough, but I can see this very clearly. You may not see it individually, because I can see a whole picture, and I can see this very clear pattern, and this is not my words. This is actually experts' words that I read. They're saying that the parenting strategies nowadays, one of the contributing problems with it, and there was a PowerPoint prepared about this, about the effect of our phones in our life, and these are the 4 factors that influence the effect of our phones. The first one is parenting. That's what I'm talking about. The way we raise our kids. The way we feel to be a good parent is I give my kids whatever they want. My kid comes back and saying, I feel sad. Why, Habibi, feel sad? Because my friend at school got iPhone 14 Pro Max. How come I've got iPhone 13? Is he better than me? Of course not, Habibi. You're good as well. I'm going to buy you. What color do you want? That's what we do. Why? Because my kids is crying because they feel less than their friends. No. That's completely wrong parenting style. Forgive me. That's not the way to raise kids. Okay? We don't raise them whatever they want, they get it. You know, parents nowadays would fight, you know, if there's competitions, and I see that very clearly. Even in the church, people will fight, parents will fight. My kid didn't get a medal. How come? People will go and fight because their kid didn't get a medal. But I'm sorry, mom or dad, your kid came last in the race. No, but he's crying. He's going to be affected. The psychology, and they're going to feel, no. If they don't want to do a race, they need to expect only the first and the second and the third will get a medal. Okay? No, they shouldn't be raised in that way. They become very fragile. They feel entitled. I'm entitled to this. Okay? And we had cases before. We had cases, people would even go to the extent of going and having a fight with servants or even priests because my kid didn't get a medal. What are we doing here? Can you see? We're making our kids feel entitled and they deserve to get this. No, they don't deserve to get this. Okay? If they work harder, maybe they're going to get it. You know, moms would go and fight at teachers at school because their kid had to get the top mark. Well, if they didn't do well in the exam, they're going to get the top mark. They need to study harder. Can you see what I'm getting at? Okay? So by doing these things, we think we are protecting our kids, but this is parenting style is actually wrong because it's making our kids feel entitled. And we're actually setting them up for failure. Because what happens in the real world when they go and they start working? The boss is not going to treat them like mom, you know? Their colleagues at work are not going to give them everything they want. When they don't do their work, they have to come on time. If they come late, they're going to be told off. They're going to get a warning. They're not going to get the promotion they always wanted. Someone else will get that promotion. What they're going to do? They're going to feel they're a failure. They're going to give up. They have no motivation. Then they fail in life. Can you see? So we're not actually preparing them for real life situations. We are shielding them too much and making them feel entitled and making them feel so special that it's unrealistic. Okay? Why I'm saying all this? Because that impacts on all this. Because when they come in technology, for example, they use Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, whatever they use, okay? they feel they want the same self-worth as they were raised with mom and dad. And they start getting the self-worth, as we heard, from what? From the likes. How many people like me? Of how many friends do I have? That's my self-worth. And when that is low, they shattered. Yes, ma'am. Wait, give me a microphone. Just because people watching.
Okay. So what's your take, and I've had different views on this, and in terms of allowing social media, so basically a full abstinence. So personally, my view is, and it could be a means of sheltering, but I feel it's sheltering because these children are not adults. They need to be guided, and I can't sit and watch their use of social media 24/7. What's your view on saying, sorry, you can't have access to social media until you finish school, as opposed to somebody telling me and saying, but if you do that, you're not giving them that freedom and helping them to self-regulate?
No, I totally agree with you.
Okay.
We shouldn't allow our kids, when I'm talking about sheltering, making them feel special, I'm talking about the other way, not protecting them.
Yeah, your opinion, because I'm kind of in a conflicting situation where personally I'm very old school, I guess, in that aspect. I feel that zero social media is better than having social media. But then when I've been to other discussions about this issue, which is a huge issue, they've said, oh, but you're not giving the children their ownership to learn how to self-regulate so that when they become adults, they have that skill. Do you feel that they can develop that skill after they become adults, or do they need to develop it during their teenage years?
That's a very good question. How old are the kids we're talking about so everyone can know?
So in my situation personally, 12 going on to 13.
Okay. So a very difficult age, teenagers, starting high school. Everyone has phones, everyone has social media, everyone has different accounts. Excellent. We have to be practical here, okay? I personally, my personal view, I want to cut all the internet. You know? That's my personal, if I have the option, get a scissors and cut connections, you know? You know, we survived without internet. I know it's going to be hard. We're going to have, all of us, including myself, we're going to have withdrawal symptoms, okay? We're going to have withdrawal symptoms because, you know, the first thing you wake up in the morning, you look at your phone, okay? Before you even say good morning to your partner, you say, look at the phone, okay? So we'll all have withdrawal symptoms, but if up to me, I would cut all this. Why? Because of the impacts that I saw, and I'm sharing with you now, and the things I'm going to share with you later as well. But let's be practical. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, okay? The world is changing, and as Christians, we need to be flexible. We need to adapt, take the good things, and leave the bad. We cannot say, internet is not a sin. Internet is not the devil. Internet is not the Antichrist. All this stuff is wrong, okay? So people say that's Antichrist. No. Misuse of anything is bad. Even misuse of good things is bad, okay? Medicine is good. Overdose of medicine is wrong, okay? Food is bad. Gluttony is wrong. Food is good. Gluttony is wrong, okay? So we need to take the good and leave the bad. So we need to be able to educate ourselves first, educate our kids, and monitor them. And this is the key. By monitoring them and direct them and guide, this is our job as parents. Our job as parents, people think our job as parents is to raise kids. We're not here to raise kids. Our job is to raise what? Adults. You know that? Your job is to raise adults, not to raise kids. If you're going to raise kids, they're not going to grow. You need to raise adults. So we're instilling in our kids now the things to help them become adults, okay? So I'm teaching them the skills to be an adult, to be a responsible person. How does it happen now when they're not mature is I need to guide them. So when a baby that's 1 year old, how long can you leave a baby 1 year old unattended for? How long? Have you tried to leave a 1 year old baby unattended? For how long? A few seconds. Because they're walking by that stage or starting to walk, and they'll go and damage everything in their way, yeah? You have to always, and if you have stairs in your home, you have to put barriers because they can come down the stairs, and okay. But as they grow, they become more independent, You can leave them unsupervised for a little bit, okay? Same thing with our internet use, okay? We need to put borders and restrictions, and I'll talk about that later. Borders and restrictions, and we need to monitor them. And you have every right to monitor your children's use, okay? That's not invasion of privacy. That's being a parent. And you're accountable, and you're responsible, and you should do that. A parent who thinks, no, I trust my kids, they're gonna feel I don't trust them by checking on them. No, that's wrong. You trust them, but you don't trust the world. Remember? They're not by themselves, they're in connection with the world. You might trust them. I'll tell you something that really, really affected me. Recently, I was taking confession of a boy in E7. A boy in E7. He's a beautiful boy. He came and was so disturbed. He was so disturbed. I want to have confession. He like, can you make it? I want to have confession. It was so, I can see he's still disturbed. And the first thing he confessed about is, I was working on my laptop and something popped up, a very bad image popped up, and I can get out of my head, and you know, my heart beat is so fast, and I feel so dirty, I feel disgusted, we obviously know what he saw. Yeah? A pop-up. He didn't search anything, he didn't look for anything. So, is he bad? No, he's a beautiful boy, I know him very well. But what happens? As a parent, I didn't put restrictions on the laptop. I didn't put different apps to stop certain content being displayed. I didn't check what they're doing. Can you see that? The end result is they get exposed to something really bad. So we need to have that balance. We need to put systems in place. We can't go, you know, straight away from 100 to 0. We need to do certain rules. We need to say, okay, they need to use it for that time. We need to know what they're using it for, who's going to be using it with you, who's going to be communicating with, you know, these people, what going to be talking about. We need to be on top of them. We need to be on top of the things to know what's happening. And this is our responsibility as parents, okay? So, because they're going to use it at school. If I tell my kids 0 internet, what's going to happen? I can block everything I can. They're going to go and they use someone else's account. I know that happens. They'll go and use their friend's account. Don't think the kids, they're very smart. They're much smarter than us when it comes to technology. You can block everything. If they want to use it, they're going to use it. They're going to go around and use someone else's. Okay? So we need to allow certain limited thing under our supervision, controlled guidance, and we tell them we trust you, but we don't trust the others. Okay? That's my personal opinion. What does everyone think? Let's open for discussion. Can you give the microphone?
I've noticed that even if we do the filtering, sometimes the children can be able to, you still get some inappropriate contents have been viewed. I've tried to do this on the kids' iPad, and shockingly, I've just seen some contents have been still.
It depends what apps using. We need to have, maybe we need to have another session, talk about the detailed apps and what you can install and the different things, and I might get someone to talk about this. But I can tell you something that's very, look, the main thing that worries me out of this is they get exposed to bad images, get pornography, okay? Bad images on the internet. You'll be shocked what's out there, okay? And it can be happen by mistake, as in the example of the E7 boy I'm telling you about. Can happen by mistake, can pop up everywhere, anyway, without them realizing. So we need to do it properly, get someone who's an expert in the area to make sure we install the right things, okay? Okay. Family Zone, there's something called Covenant Eyes. That's a Christian company as well, called Covenant Eyes. And these apps are very good because they will actually block the things. Not just block, some apps block, some apps become something called accountability partners. What happens is you do a subscription with them, a monthly subscription, and you nominate someone who's accountable. So if any of your children, for example, ends up being on a bad website, you'll be notified straight away. They'll give you a report of they went on that website from that time to that time, and basically this is the name of the website, and this is something, you know that this is something bad. You'll be notified. And that person, your child, would know that you're going to be notified, and that will help them to become accountable. Again, that's another topic. We talk about all the different apps you can use, but I recommend, and this is one thing I want to tell parents, is sometimes when I talk to people and I recommend these apps to them, the first problem they encounter is has to be done by prescription. They need a credit card, they need a monthly thing, okay? So they're not gonna go tell my parents, I need to subscribe to this, you know? Then they'll think they're doing something wrong. But it's very important, and I encourage people to tell them to go subscribe to this one and tell your parents that you need help with these things, okay? So they can help you out. Because some of this stuff you need to pay some money for it, a monthly subscription, but it makes a big difference. It helped a lot of people. So I want you, as parents, we need to be open-minded. As I said earlier, our kids are not bad. They're actually victims of this generation that we're in, victims of technology. So when they get exposed to something bad like this, and by the way, it happens from the youngest exposure, can happen from as young as 5 years old. 5 years old. Because accidents, all happens in accident. They're searching something, and then something pops up. That disturbs them, initiates curiosity in their minds, and they start to look for other things. That's how it works, okay? And becomes an addiction. So we need to help our children. We need to have open-minded, that they're not bad, but if someone comes to you and saying, I need help, we need to help them, not to judge them, okay? Not to judge them, because the statistics are very high with boys and girls, okay? It's in the 90-something%. I can give you some statistics. I don't want to scare you, but maybe I need to do this so you don't think, you know, if my child comes to me and tells me this, then my child is bad. No, your child is not bad, okay? Your child is not bad. This is basically what they're exposed to, and you need to understand this and help them to get over it. Sorry, not this one, which one? So 90% of male teens, 15 to 17 years old, will view pornography this month. 34% of them will become addicts, okay? 90% of males. So don't say, I don't want people to be closed-minded and say, no, that's not my son, that's not my daughter. And this is the problem that we do. We need to be open-minded and understand that this is a problem affecting the whole world now, okay, the whole world. So we need to help our children because they're still vulnerable, they're still learning. So we need to help them and encourage them, you know? Like it doesn't hurt for me to approach my child and say, you know, I understand you're going through a hard time, there's many things affecting you, you know, if by any chance you've watched something bad, you know, we can work together through this, you know, I can help you with this, you know, I was a teenager before, I know how it works. If they feel that we're with them on the same page, that's part of the process for them to overcome any bad sins they have, okay? And this is my concern as a priest is, I don't want, because this is one of the silent pandemics, okay? And over the last few years, I've been giving a lot of talks on pornography to the youth in different places. When they invite me to give a talk, I used to talk about this topic. Why? Because for me, everyone was scared about, you know, COVID, the pandemic. But pornography is a silent pandemic because no one knows about it. It's hidden. And we think everything is fine. It's a silent pandemic that's affecting our children to a great extent, and we're not even aware of it. And that's why we need to expose it. When we expose these things, it becomes weaker. When we expose sin, it becomes weaker. So I want the parents, you guys as parents, not to focus, too much focus on the academic studies of our kids, beautiful, on the health, excellent. But what about the spirituality? What about the spirituality? Because these things are a big burden to the spiritual life, okay? When they get exposed to these bad things, it completely shatters their mind. It completely drags them down spiritually. So we as parents need to protect our kids as we protect their academic studies. We'll do anything for my child to get the top marks. I think I was loud enough. Yeah, I don't need another microphone. We do anything to get my child the top marks, and we give them tutoring, and we do this. What about the spiritual life? Okay? And this is the most important thing. So we have to be sure that my child is, we give them all the help they need. Okay? So we need to be open-minded with our children, because as I said, the statistics are so high, and we don't have to wait until a disaster happens. Because what happens with these social media images and all the stuff, it affects the brain, as we just watched now. It's another type of addiction. So it affects the brain structure. It changes everything. And I want to give later on a whole topic just on pornography and its impact, because there's scientific stuff on it. There's a huge topic. So I don't want to mix the two together. But that's my concern. One of the addiction to social media is what happens when it comes to all this bad stuff they see and the effect on spirituality. Yes.
Changes to the brain.
Yes.
Is that with device users in general? Like, obviously our children are being, all their studies now is on laptops, etc., and that's the way to go. So is it more the social media and that sort of content that's affecting the brain, or is it just devices in general?
No, devices in general, but in that example that these people were saying, they're exposed to all these digital devices. So addiction to gaming, addiction to social media use. For example, there was, I just want to try and get it here somewhere. I read it somewhere. I can't remember where. But it basically goes to the saying how it affects our brain. When we go social media, for example, and we get that message. Have you noticed when you get the sound of a message on your phone, what happens to you? We get beep, beep on the phone. What do you want to do? You want to run and check the message, yeah? You want to run and check the message. You get that feeling, I want to check the message, okay? And that's why you find that people always checking, because they feel that this is something that I need to find out. There's that urge to find out. When people go post something on Facebook, what do? They go back and check it. Why? They want to see likes. How many likes did I get? How many likes did I get? Did people comment on my posting? And this person commented, this person didn't comment. Why? Yeah? Why? What's wrong with them? They didn't like my post, or they don't like me? What's the issue? What happens? And look, that person said this, and that person replied that, and we start making all this. What happened? And we keep, as adults, keep going through, scrolling through, and then we realize, oh, what's the time now? And Abuna tells you, do you pray? No, I don't have time, Abuna. I'm too busy with everything, with the kids and all that. I'm too busy. No, we're busy with the internet. So I'm talking to adults now. We're busy with the internet. Because what happens, we go like this, keep scrolling. We're trying to find satisfaction. We don't realize it, but psychologically, we find satisfaction in it. Okay? We try to find satisfaction in it. So psychologically, it has a big impact. And again, that will come out in other talks. But what I want to focus on is overall, and specifically in terms of pornography, that's a huge issue in itself. I want to dedicate a whole hour on it to do it properly. But overall, as parents, we need to know what's happening with our children. It's not right to give them an iPad as a birthday present saying, oh, see how much we love you? No, because that could be harmful for them. It's not right as a parent to feel, as a good parent, I need to give my kids the latest technology because of other people have it. And this is comparison. This is something big, because remember we said last week why parents provide child with phone to connect child when they're at school, because they felt left out, to keep in contact with their friends, to do the schoolwork. Okay? See why the reasons why parents give the kids the phone? To do the schoolwork, 4%. Okay? Scared about their safety, we said last time. You don't need a smartphone. You can give them a dumb phone, you can give them a watch where they can contact you. And if your kid's little and you drive them to school and pick them up, what do they need a phone for? They don't need. People in primary, what do they need phone for? Think about it. They need a phone To do what? It's because their friends have phone. It's because they can chat with their friends. Well, they see them in school. They can see them at church. Why do they have to keep chatting to their friends outside this time? Is that nearly necessary? Because it doesn't just stop there, okay? Because they felt left out. Look at the parents. Parents, nearly a quarter of the parents think, because my kids are left out, that's why I have to give them a phone. Really? So if you know that your friend, your child's friend is taking drugs, you think, oh, my son is missing out on drugs, I'll give him drugs? That's what it is, okay? My child is missing out on doing this wrong thing as their friends, so I'm going to give them the wrong thing. My son's friends are smoking, I'm going to give them a cigarette because they're going to miss out. We have to be careful, okay? The impact of whatever we do with our children. Because this may be our reasons, but look what actually happens, what children actually use their devices for. Google searches, social media, emails, okay? So we may think we're doing them something good, but the actual use is not good, okay? It doesn't say here, you know, they're doing much schoolwork. So we have to be very careful. I realize the time, it's 12:15, we started late, but there's much more to cover. What I want to say is, in conclusion, our kids are good, our kids are victims, we need to help them. We need to start with ourselves as adults. We need to help our kids by being good parents, not to expose them to many of the things. We need, as a parent, to basically like monitor what they're doing. You're entitled to ask kids questions. What are you doing? Okay? Why are they closing their door and sitting in the bedroom by themselves with the laptop and closing the door? Why? Why do they need to do that? Why? Tell me. We don't want their privacy. We trust them. Really? Let's be honest with ourselves. Why does a child need to be in their bedroom by themselves with a closed door and a laptop? Why? Sorry if I'm being upfront. Why do they need to do that?
When I started going back to exposure to the bad images, so how do we know that our kids by incident get exposed to bad images? Is there any symptoms we can see on the kids, or do you think they will come back to us and say we saw something really bad, or they're gonna get scared, or how do we know that it already happened?
Yeah, well, I don't want to sound very pessimistic, but I'm really passionate about this topic because I know for a fact that this has ruined many people's lives, okay? And that's why I was giving all these talks about it. But we cannot turn a blind eye, and as I said, the statistics are in the 90s. So most likely, everyone's here kids have been exposed to something. I don't know how much, I don't know for how long, but I wouldn't be surprised if everyone. I personally was exposed to pornography. I saw pornography. I'm telling you. You know how? When I was working, my first year, was actually still a student. In my final year, I was doing a prac in a firm, in an office. It was a small office. And my boss, he was doing his work during working hours in front of a computer, and he was laughing and pointing. And he said, come, look. I thought he was talking about work. We're doing work, working hours. And I came and looked. He was watching pornography. I saw an image, struggled for years to get rid of the image from my mind. What can I do now? Too late. Damage happened. Can you see? Damage happened, too late. This is what happens with our kids. They're not bad, but they will be exposed to bad things, and we need to help them. So there's many symptoms. Not all of them is related to this, but for me, maybe because I can see it a lot, I deal with it, I can see it. But what happens, you'll find them not focused because the images, and that depends how much they watch and for how long and all that, but it impacts their concentration. You find the kids are a bit like lost. They're not focused. They're like in another world. You know, like similar when a drug addict, for example, people on drugs, you know, someone on drugs feel like they're a bit out of it, okay? But this one is in a different way. That means what happens is they become desensitized. So they're not interested anymore in many things. Nothing really excites them. Nothing really makes them happy. You know, They don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. You even find them, let's go out together. No, I want to stay home by myself. No, don't allow that. That's very dangerous, okay? Why do you want to stay home by yourself? They become antisocial. I'm just telling you some of the headlines. It may not apply to everyone, but I'm telling you some of the things, and you can assess for yourself. They become antisocial. They become, they like sitting by themselves all of the time, spend a lot of time by themselves. Okay? They stay late at night. When everyone goes to bed, good night, mom, good night, no, I'm going to be up. Why? When someone is young, why do you need to stay there for long? No, you shouldn't sleep before your kids. I'm sorry, parents. You shouldn't go to bed and leave your kids on their computers. That's very dangerous. That's very dangerous. You trust them, even if they're the best kids. I trust them, but I don't trust the other side. I don't trust the world. Okay? So you find them distracted. You find them not focused on their work. Their concentration span is becoming less. The schoolwork may be affected. You find them not happy, generally not happy. They're not as bubbly as they used to be before. You feel like they're worried, distressed, anxious. You find them, as I said, they're losing interest in even the things they used to have a hobby or a sport they used to do. They're losing interest in that stuff. They're not interested anymore. I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered doing this. I can't be bothered doing that. Yeah, I don't have an interest anymore. I don't care anymore. That attitude, okay? They're very, very, what's the word? Not motivated to do anything, okay? Everything becomes boring. You find them that they can't do an activity for long, especially, for example, at church. They come and they can't pray for long. They can't stand up for long. Why all this happening? Because these images they see, it overstimulates their mind. It creates overstimulation in their mind. Everything else becomes boring. Similar to gaming and normal social media, everything becomes boring. Everything else becomes, nothing stimulates them. You know, certain things stimulate them. And that's why you find that they want more and more and more. It's exactly like drugs, as the experts said. Exactly like drugs. You want more and more to keep the level of stimulation happening, and therefore anything else that used to be good before, it's not interesting anymore. It's not interesting anymore. And this is just some of the symptoms you can notice. Okay? Hopefully I didn't scare you that much. Okay? Because some of the things that I said could be for other reasons as well. So not all of them because of this. Could be similar symptoms for other reasons. But I don't want us to be ignorant. We need to be wise and do our role as parents. Okay? Because as I said, everyone will be exposed to it. I said I was exposed to it, and you can't do anything about it. Okay? And that's why I know how it feels. And people, when they do that, and it's not their fault, what can they do? And the statistics say they get exposed from as young as 5. From young as 5. And companies, and this was actually one of the papers that I read, companies actually target young kids. You know, they know what games they play. They'll put certain ads in certain games to attract certain age categories. It's done. It's very strategic. Okay, these companies out there need to make profit out of this stuff, so they target our kids because they know they have access to all these gadgets. Okay, so I'll tell you some quick things to do before we finish, but that needs another topic. Is in terms of the basic thing you can do, very thing, if you know. In terms of iPad, for example, something like this, is if you go to your settings, and you'll see in settings something called what? Screen time. Okay? Screen time. See, it tells you a graph. That's my graph, my daily average, and what day I use it. See, Wednesday was my biggest day. Okay? And that's 45% up from last week. And then we'll break it down into different things. So what you can use technology to control technology, okay? So you can go for screen time, and you can control and restrict certain use. So for example, here, if you look here, it will tell you what downtime, okay? So this is, you can't use it. You can limit certain apps. You can limit, you say for example, there's a 1 hour limit on the use of Facebook, for example. After that cuts off. You You can set certain limits. So play around with the screen time, and this will make a big difference. And I'll show you at the end. Someone used it as well in the video that we saw. So screen time is very important. You can use that to limit the screen, and you can put passcodes to restrict the limits. So you give your children certain time limits. Yes.
I discovered my kid is addicted, and I just some parents tell me that my son or daughter is addicted. How can I stop that? Is I stop suddenly and just prevent the screen time, or what? Just gradually, or what can I do?
Now this needs a whole session. If you feel they're addicted, what's the definition of addiction? They need. I recommend you to send them to the confession father first, because the fathers are used to hearing this and they can guide them. Okay, because this is firstly and foremost a spiritual point. Okay, and our children are born in the church. They have the Holy Spirit inside them, so they will know that this is wrong and they want help. Okay, they want help. They don't like it. They don't like themselves like that. They hate themselves. And that's why that will lead. And that's why I'm passionate about it, because it's going to affect them on all aspects of their life. The spirituality, number one, is going to affect their self-worth. It's going to affect their academic life. It's going to affect their social life. It's even going to affect them when they get married. There's a lot of marital problems happens because of addiction to internet. Okay? So the first point of reference, I recommend you to tell them, go tell Abuna. Abuna hears about this all the time. Abuna will never judge you. Abuna loves you. Don't worry. If you're embarrassed, write it for him and give it to him. Push your kids to come for confession. Don't tell them, go confess to Abuna what you've done is wrong. God's going to punish you. No, don't do that stuff. Okay? Don't do that stuff. If someone is sick and come and tell you, I'm sick, do you hit them because they're sick, or do you take them to a doctor? That's what you need to do. If someone is experiencing something, consider them someone who's sick, someone who's suffering, and they don't like their sickness. They want to be treated. So me as a parent, I need to facilitate. I need to drive them to the doctor. That's what I do. If you wake up in the night, your child has a temperature, you take them to the doctor. You don't say, how come you're sick? What did you do to get sick? What did you do? This is not time to do that now. You need to get them rescued, okay? So please, the first point is refer them to Abuna in a nice way. You can talk to Abuna, so Abuna can know beforehand, and Abuna can try to ease his way through it, okay? We know how to deal with them, but you have to refer them to us. Otherwise, how would we know? Many people confess about it, and they do it voluntarily, but some people need the push because they feel it's very embarrassing. Put yourself in their shoes. It's very embarrassing to come and say to Abuna about that. So they need the encouragement that God loves you, that God wants you back, that Abuna is not going to judge you. They need the encouragement so they can open up, and that's the beginning of the road to recovery. And then after that, depends on the circumstances, Abuna can decide what's the next step, okay? But usually what happens is once they confess about it for the first time, they expose that sin, then it gets much better. Why? Because the devil is being exposed. When we confess about a sin, we're exposing the devil. So Abuna will help them with some spiritual exercises, will monitor them, and they usually improve a lot because now they got it out of their, off their chest, and they can actually tackle the issue, and they can deal with it. And they know they have support. They're not going to be judged, okay? Because we don't judge someone who's sick. We support them, okay? So this is what we need to do in a nutshell. But please, if you know any cases, please come and talk to me or any of the fathers individually about your children. More than happy to hear and more than happy to work together, because this is, as I said at the very beginning, my main job description is to go to heaven and take all of you with me to heaven. And I don't want to let anything get in the way between us and heaven. No social media, no phones, no internet. St. Paul said, who shall separate me from the love of God? Nothing. Okay? So nowadays, every generation has a challenge. This is our challenge. With the grace of God, we can overcome it together. But I have one wish from all of you and the parents who are listening. This will only work if it's done collectively. What do I mean by that? If I tell my kids, no, I'm not going to give you the latest phone, I'm going to give you a dumb phone, and then they go, and other parents will go give the kids the latest phone. It's not going to work. then I look like a bad parent. I'm the mean parent. You're bad, you don't love me. How come this parent, my friend's parent, they give them the latest phone? But can you see what happens if all of us take the same approach? Can you see what's going to happen? If all of us say no, if all of us monitor our kids, if all of us say, why do you need the latest phone? If all of us have strict rules in our homes and monitor our kids' use and install these apps and all this stuff to control our use. And this is our house rules. And if every house has the same rules, what's going to happen? It's going to become the normal, and we're going to save our kids. Can you see that? And that's why I wanted to have a meeting with all the parents so we can all be on the same page, we all do the same thing. Because if one parent does one thing and the other parents don't follow, it's useless. Then that parent will feel odd, and they'll be attacked, and he will be a mean parent. Okay? But personally, even if my kids call me mean, or I'm bad, or I don't love them, I don't care. Because I love them. That's why I'm doing this. They don't realize it now, they realize it later. But it will be much, much easier if all of us do something collectively and say no. And that's why there's that group, I think it's called Alliance, or a group of parents got together and they said no to mobile phones. Enough is enough. That's what the people that I showed you at the beginning for the news. Okay? Because they all got together and they have one mission. So we need to do that. As Christians, we know the impact of it. And I can talk for hours and hours on it. And we need another session for the specific apps. And I get people who know exactly, people from IT, what they're talking about, help us specifically what to do, specific instructions. And I'm planning to get as well a psychologist to talk to you about the impact of that psychologically on the children. And we need to talk about pornography specifically as a separate topic, because that's a whole big topic on its own, okay? Because we need to be aware of it. I know people like not to talk about these topics, but we need to talk about them. You know, if we are not doing it ourselves as adults, we need to help our kids not to get involved in that. Okay, so I'll end up with showing you something from that video which we started, and we started. Remember with this mother. Sorry, remember we started with this mom. Remember this mom and her problems with the boys. Okay, we want to see at the end what happened with her. What did she do? Okay, so. Just a few seconds.
And it's less compulsive.
Back in Brisbane, Bianca Pevriol has already taken on the technology and won.
Right. So that's where that is.
She's now in complete control of home computers and gaming devices with a parent-controlled app that restricts the sort of games young Adam and Owen can play, and for how long. So how does it work? You can't play this game unless Mum pops in the code, the security code. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad thing.
Now, if you didn't have the timer on there, how long would you play on the game?
I don't know, until my eyes hurt.
The app and a table of chores.
That day to watch TV, 50 points.
Means Owen and Adam have now detoxed from their devices.
Is there a difference in the boys' behaviour before and after you started controlling the time?
Yep, big difference.
You had to use technology to fight the technology.
I know, it's ironic, yeah. I see the irony, but it's true. It's like there's an app for everything now.
So see, that's screen time we talked about. So what did she do? She put limits on her children. And did you see the comment from the boy when he was talking to him, when he's playing the game? Because you see what the boy was doing? He wasn't giving him eye contact. He wasn't even giving the man eye contact. He was so happy he can play the game. And he told him, if there's no time limit, when will you stop? What did he say? Until my eyes hurt. So there's no time. Okay? So she's using technology. And then what did she notice, the impact? What did she notice after she put these limits? What did she say? When he told her, did you notice difference? What did she say? What did she notice? You're not listening? What did she say? We're going to finish with this. She said she noticed big improvement. And see the kids now, they're playing outside, playing with scooters, with skateboards. Now they're doing what boys should normally be doing, what kids should be doing, playing outside rather than in front of a screen. Okay? And she noticed the difference in their aggression and their behavior. And that confirms that definitely this has a huge impact on people. And that's why we can't deny all these facts and turn a blind eye and say, it's not happening with my kids. No, it's happening with everyone's kids. Okay? But we as Christians, and I'll conclude with this, we need to understand that we're not alone. Okay? All of our children have the Holy Spirit inside them. And He will guide them. And God will help them. And we as parents can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Because all things are lawful for us, as St. Paul said, but not everything edify. We are here to build our children, to raise adults for the future. So we have to do our role as parents. Okay. Thank you so much, and glory be to God forever. Thank you for your time. God willing, we'll organize another session to talk about different topics, or maybe get other people to talk about. We're still where. Sorry?
No one told us today that we're coming. You didn't get nothing? No.
No, we said this time we sent to everyone. Everyone. How did you know about it? That's a good point. How did you know about today? No. We sent it to everyone. No, all Sunday school should have received it.
Who's the admin of the group?
Laura should send it to everyone. Where's Laura? Okay. Don't check messages. Which group? We send it to all groups, okay? So really? Did none of the men got? How you found the men? Just we really? So you got invited. So some people got it, some people didn't get it. I don't know what to do, guys. We send clear instructions. Okay, so they said this session will be recorded and put on YouTube. So if you know people who wanted to attend this and didn't get a chance or didn't know about it, you'll see it on YouTube. I know the first one as well was on YouTube. The first one was put on YouTube, and this session, God willing, you'll put it on YouTube. So it will be done by YouTube. So people, you know, you can spread the word, tell them, and tell them, please, I don't know what more. We need to send a whole church-wide message, but you know it's not directed for everyone. Okay, so that's why we send it to all Sunday school groups, and assuming everyone knew about it. But I'll check. I'll check with the servants. But we're doing that in Sunday school, and we're doing that in different like camps and certain things like that. Okay, so we'll be doing that. But remember what I said. We need to start with ourselves, okay? And we can teach our kids. When it comes to the kids, we're going to be doing different sessions, and that's been done on a regular basis, been doing for a while anyway, with the children. For example, I can say that because I did it personally, I gave the talk to boys about pornography in Sunday school, okay? I did it myself, so I know that happened. And I know other servants did that as well, okay? So we tackle issues like that with them directly. They're not going to come and tell you, guess what we're talking about today in Sunday school. Okay? They may be embarrassed to talk to you about that. Or you think, oh, do you watch that stuff and all. Okay? But we deal with it on their level. But I felt the parents don't know exactly what's happening. And that's why we said we need to have this meeting. So we teach the kids and we teach you so you can teach the kids. We need to work together. Okay? We need to work together, the church with the home, for the benefit of our children. But I'm sorry if you didn't find out. And that's why by 11:20 I started, because not many people were here. That explains why, because you didn't know. Okay. But and there was a video that we saw at the beginning as well. Everything will be downloaded anyway on YouTube. So we can use the technology now for our benefit. Watch on YouTube, okay? See? We get the best out of technology, but we limited it there. Any questions before we wrap up? Sorry, went over time. But because people came late, that's why. Yes.
So we need to know how to reply to our kids when we put all of these sites, because it won't be a battle. They will not like be easy. Okay, mom, it's all right if you put these like limits, but we need to convince them as well why we're doing that. It's not for our best, it's for their best, and it's harder for us because we have to fill this time for them by another thing, by our presence or our playing with them or whatever we have to do.
Exactly. That's a very important point, is I can't take something from a child and tell them that's it. I need to replace it with something beneficial, okay? So as I said earlier, you find that our children in other generation used to be preoccupied with sports, playing with each other, even talking to each other face to face, okay? Now when someone says to a friend, let's meet, when are we going to meet? Face to face, he said, yeah, when can I Skype you? That's face to face to them, okay? Skype now becomes face to face. No, it's still technology, it's not face to face. They may see each other, but that's not face to face, okay? So what we need to do, we need to replace the things for our children. And by the way, when we tell them we're going to have limits, this is done in consultation with them. So I don't want you to go and block everything and the kids come to do and say, what's happened, mom, the computer's not working? No, they need to know before. You need to have that talk with them before. You need to say, this is what we learned today. This is what we heard. And you can tell them we saw this and we saw that. And they see on the news. They know what's happening in the news. Why this happened, this is for your benefit. I know you may not agree with it, but me as a parent, I need to do what's right for you, okay? Your kids will be angry, will be not happy and say, no, not fair. You're a horrible parent. You're not the best parent. I don't love you, all that stuff. These parents are better. What do you do when you tell your kids to study and they tell you, no, I don't want to study? You say, okay, Habibi, no problem. You don't have to study. What do you do if you study? I know what happens when you come to study. هتذاكر غصب عنك. I don't care what you feel. You're going to study. You have to study. Like, that's not negotiable. How come other things are negotiable? Yeah? Can you see what I mean? That means it's not a priority for us. If it's a priority, we're going to enforce it. And you need to enforce it. As a parent, you have the right to enforce it. You are in control. You set the rules. You as a parent in control. You have to be in control. God has made you a parent to be in control, and we're going to be accountable to God as parents if we don't do the proper responsibility as a parent. Even if you get a resistance, that's okay. Even if you feel, no, that's all right. Later on, they'll know that's for their benefit. So we need to have the discussion with them, explain to them. If they're not convinced, we still have to do it anyway. But try to convince them first and explain to them. Doesn't matter what the outcome. But then, good point, we have to replace it. Get them involved in sport. Sport is so important for our kids. They have energy. They need to take the energy out. Sport is so important. Get them do anything. Doesn't have to be, don't worry about competition. Don't worry about winning medals or competition. Just fun. To have fun, okay? And let them release the energy in a positive way, in a beneficial way. That's very important. Get them, encourage them to find a talent they have or a hobby they have, and to pursue that hobby or that talent, that sport, whatever it is. Not for competition, but to do something good. That will help improve the self-value. That will take them away, will have no time in front of the screens, and you will find them becoming better people. They'll develop their personality. They'll learn a lot of skills. Okay? Thank you. Sorry, I finished. There's a question time, okay? So it doesn't count for my time. There's many things to do. Okay, excellent. So the question was, do we have things for the kids like activities together, choir, drama, whatever, so they can all work together to take them away from the screens? The church, I'm talking about for the church will have different things to cater for them. We have a choir for the kids. We have, not choir like in terms, not the kids, but in terms of like when they go and do preparation for the events, Christmas and Easter and all that stuff. They have things like that. We get the youth busy with different activities. For Sunday school, we need to encourage maybe something more specific for Sunday school, some specific Sunday school activities. But I don't want you to wait for this to happen. Do it on an individual level. Go to your local, sports club and get them, join them to do sport in your local area, so they can deal with people and be members in the society and know how to deal with people and be part of a sporting team, for example. They can do something social, okay? So is that hands up or? I thought your hand up. So what I'm saying is get them involved in other things, okay? In the church, for example, we can come and if you want the kids to do a particular service, we can find something service for them. In Sunday school, they've done it before. They used to come and get the kids come and clean the church. We used to have a cleaning day for the church. We do like a cleaning day for the church, okay? Things like that. We can do things like that, We can even, Sunday school, they used to come down and collect the rubbish after Sunday school. So things like that is important, but still they'll have time. They'll still have plenty of time, okay? And that's why we have to limit and get them busy in other things, okay? So encourage them to have friends where they can go meet and play together, physical activities, not everything on the screen, okay? It will take time, and there will be resistance because they're not used to this, but we have to do our role, okay? And remember, we are special because we have the Holy Spirit inside us, so we're not alone. As a parent, you ask for God's help as a parent. Tell him, God, these are your children. They're not my children. They're your children before they're my children. So help me so I can help them. Direct me so I can direct them. Guide me so I can guide them. And if we are spiritual, if we are close to God as parents, we'll have the wisdom to know what to do in different circumstances. If we pray together with our family every day, then it will be easy for them to obey us. Think about it this way. This is for us as parents. If God is in the home, then the home will be in order. The home will be blessed. The households will be complied with because there's going to be obedience from the kids. They're going to listen to the parents. There's going to be love. And when the Bible is open in the house will be blessed. Okay? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, as in the Bible. Okay, so we start with ourselves, and that will be reflected on our children. Thank you again for your time, and we'll stand up for prayer.